Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to season 2 of Scrum Call. In this season, we are diving deeper into the real world of Agile through engaging interviews, thought provoking articles, and insightful discussions. We are bringing you stories from Agile practitioners who have faced challenges, found solutions, and celebrated success. So, whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, tune in to learn, grow, and connect with a broader Agile community. You can find Scrum Call on all major podcast platforms and even on YouTube. So, with that, let's get started.
But what agility requires is for us to be catalyst leaders, which means those kind of leaders who are able to create the culture, which is apt for an agile transformation or apt for agility to happen within your organization. Right? So, which means, what do we mean by that, right? What do we mean by, having different types of leadership capabilities? How do we even know whether I'm an expert achiever or a catalyst? Right? So if you look at on the right side, there are 3 points written: self-awareness and intent, systems view, and time horizon. So these are 3 things will determine and help you understand where you are today. If you are an expert leader, your self-awareness is very limited, right? And your intent is restricted to your own self or team. And most often you will see, subject matter experts or very new leaders exhibiting this kind of behavior. That does not mean that, people who are new leaders are all experts. No, you can also be a catalyst at any level, because we believe leadership exists at all levels. But because we are not educated, because we are not trained to be leaders, we often exhibit this expert mindset, which means, certain characteristics of an expert mindset are: I know it all, leave me alone, I just like to work in silos. Something that you mentioned earlier, Shishir. People like to say, it takes too much time to get somebody involved, so let me do it myself.
Correct, yeah.
Too much time to train someone. So because there is a sense of urgency, let me just do it now. Right? So those kind of mindsets you see predominantly in our or in all organizations mostly. Then as you mature, you will see that, some of us develop the ability to not just look at the task and not very tactical, but we are looking at the project. So our system is moving away from task to project or result. That's when we start thinking, we are focusing on achieving goals and results, not really focused on tasks. So, and then if your system view is slightly larger, if you widen your view of the system towards the culture, towards the environment, then you build the ability to think like the catalyst, because you're not only thinking about your tasks or results, but you're also trying to create a culture or an environment where tasks and projects can succeed. Right? So that's the second point. Now, coming to time horizon. So when you are an expert leader, you're really thinking about the now, the here. What am I supposed to do now? Let me just do that and get home. You will see a lot of people in our organizations who are leaders who will just want to finish their work and get back home, right?
Yeah, how soon can I finish this and get out?
Yeah, so that is one. Then as if you're an achiever leader, you'll also be thinking from, maybe the expert leader is thinking about here and now, maybe 3 months from now, like that. But if you're an achiever leader, you're probably thinking strategic. Maybe you may be thinking 1 year from now or up to 1 year, what do I do? How do I make sure things are happening? And if you see project managers or if you see general managers, they are looking at, 1 year vision, 3 year vision, not beyond. Right? But if you're a catalyst leader, because you're thinking about an environment, let's say I want to create a psychologically safe environment for my organization. I can't just say that, for the first 1 year, we will be psychologically safe. I may have to think beyond, right? I may have to think 5 years from now, if I want to achieve this, I will need a psychologically safe. Which is why I will come up with some, structures or some different kind of policies and metrics so that I can slowly look at that. So while the expert and achiever is looking at short term, the catalyst is actually looking at a long term view.
Got it. So let me take an example just to sort of connect the dots across, right? Because I'm sure out of the lot of people who see these kind of podcasts, it could be leadership level, it could even be team member level, right?
Yeah.
I remember long back, there was this one leadership who came and said that, we are looking at an increment of 30 cents to the dollar as an increase in shareholder value. And back then I was a team member, and I was just wondering, how the hell does that make sense to me? Right? So this leader is talking about something so abstract, it didn't make sense to me. But then at that point of time, the team leader that we had, he put it in perspective to me, and that made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
He said, the work that you do, right, this Excel file that you're uploading onto the system, it's leading to the distribution of products across the stores. If you mess it up, people lose trust in the company. They stop coming to buy stuff from us, which will reflect in investments reducing, because people are not going to our stores, they're not buying things at our place. Why would they invest in our company's shares? And what will happen then? Share value comes down. But if you do your job really well, products are distributed properly, people buy more, investments happen, shareholder value goes up. Now, and he tried to simplify it like heavily, but it clicked, right? And I think that's what you're also talking about, right?
Yeah, absolutely right. Most of our leaders can't see the big picture themselves. How will they explain it to you? Your team lead was a great guy. Maybe he had the maturity, which is why I said, leadership, just because, you're at the early stage of your leadership career doesn't mean that you are always an expert at leadership. Sometimes you have catalytic, level
Instincts.
of leadership, that you have learned not because of your career, but because of your life experience. You would have handled certain situations in life which would have made you think big picture.
Correct. Yeah.
So we always believe that these maturity levels or these growth levels are not restricted to titles, but it is different for different human beings based on who you are as a person.
Right.
And it's something that I want to reiterate again and again, that everybody can grow. All of you can change. If you choose to put your energy and effort into developing yourself. And that's why, at Agile Leadership Journey, we keep saying that without self-transformation, Agile transformation doesn't happen.
Yeah, very true.
We focus on, coaching and teaching leaders or educating leaders so that they go through the transformation. And once you go through the grind, you have built the capacity to develop others and, help the organization.
Right. And that's a really good segue into another important aspect that can affect agility in a very profound way, which is company culture.
Yes.
Right? And I've changed enough companies to tell you just how, I don't want to say terrible, but the way it impacts agility is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Just the company culture that can make or break. So what has been your take on that?
Absolutely right. One of the things that we also teach is about how leaders and organization, or let's say leaders and cultures, are two sides of the same coin. So if you have a very strong leader in your organization, he can or change or tweak the organization culture. But if your culture is really strong and you're not such a great or a very effective leader, it can change you. Because what is culture? Culture is a, set of value systems, right? Imagine when there is a new startup that is formed, the value system of the founder becomes the culture of the organization.
Very true.
Maybe very competitive. Take Steve Jobs. When Apple started, right? He was just somebody who had an innovative product. So that's why he got a couple of others who were thinking like him, technically really sound.
Right.
And he created that culture and started hiring people like him. But as the startup started growing, he realized that there needs to be more values like collaboration. He needs to work with people. He needs to pick others who can work with each other, and they form a great team. So he brought in more people, and one of the values that he added into the culture was collaboration. And when they started globally scaling high, they realized we need somebody to control the whole thing, right? Otherwise, it was
Right.
going to be chaotic. There were so many distribution channels, there were so many countries, geographies, different kinds of products coming up. So he needed to bring stability and focused systems and strong, stable systems into the culture. So he
Right.
hired people who were good at controlling things. So, and then he had to stay competitive in the market. So he brought in a little bit of competition into the way we work. He said incentives, rewards, recognition, and so on and so forth, right? So culture is a group of value systems that come together, and every organization has a unique culture based on the kind of and because organizations mirror leaders and leaders mirror organization, there is always an influence. Now,
Right.
if your leader has a belief system that is different from the belief system of the organization, then there is going to be a problem. Right?
Yeah,
You'll have
very true.
An easy example is, think about organization where you join and you did not like. Maybe it's too hierarchical, maybe it's too command and control. So you tried to survive, you tried to succumb. If you had a big EMI to pay, you would have stayed back and say, let me continue to do this because I need to pay my bills. But if not, you would have quit, right? Some people choose to quit because the values are not aligned. There is a clash, conflict. So culture plays a huge role, in organizational agility perspective, because if leadership, believes in human beings, and because organizations are made of human beings, if leaders learn to value them and help them grow and become their best versions, they can make great change happen. If not, there will be a conflict and they will struggle.
That's very true. And the other side of it is, from a team member standpoint also, while a leader might be willing and completely understands that there has to be a cultural change, or someone needs to come out of their shell and really expand and develop. Sometimes from a team member standpoint also, I've seen that there are people who would be like, this is what I am, this is what I do, that's it. Just let me do this work because I'm good at it. And they just don't want to come out of that silo of theirs, So that also presents a challenge by itself. So
Go ahead.
So with that as a context, what has been your take when it comes to that side of the story?
See, again, when you say individual contributors or leaders, right, I think all of us have leadership capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
All of us can become more adaptive and develop a growth mindset. If you don't choose to, depending on how the organization allows it, you'll either stay or leave, right? And what is tolerated becomes the culture in the organization. If you tolerate mediocrity, if you tolerate people not respecting each other, if you tolerate backbiting, if you tolerate unhealthy competition, it becomes the culture slowly, because one will, realize that until I backbite someone else, I cannot grow. You will see a lot of people pulling each other down in order to grow.
Yeah.
So, as a leader, you should have the ability to see and catch these subtle nuances in the organization to be able to make that change.
So situational leadership.
Yeah, this is again situation, right? So you should be able to adapt. And what are some of the things that make the culture, right? Way you are structured. If you are extremely hierarchical and there are 20 layers in between the entry-level leader and the, let's say, a director, then it's extremely hierarchical. Information won't flow easily up and down, right? So it is bound to get diluted in between, and something else needs to be communicated, gets understood as something else.
Diluted, distorted, and I mean, just imagine getting an approval for something simple, and it's taking a month.
Right? And that is so expensive in the long run.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. Right? So that's one of the ways to identify if your existing structure is actually enabling agility or not. If it is taking a month for a 5 cent profit is making you spend $50, then it is not worth it, right?
True,
So you
true.
want to change the structure. The second lever for any cultural change is your policies. What kind of policies do you have in your organization? Are you able to adapt your policies based on the needs of the organization? Take COVID, for example, right? Most organizations were able to quickly move to work from home because that was a new policy that was unknown to anybody. Earlier, people would never even allow you to take a day, or be late to work. Suddenly started allowing work from home. Why? Because that was the need of the hour. Most
Yeah.
organizations that were able to adopt and get these work from
They
home
wait for that.
survived,
Yeah.
right? The others didn't.
Correct.
And it's also situational, based on the context and based on your industry. You may or may not have been able to do it, but that's another way to tweak your culture. The third is your metrics. What metrics are you driving? Sometimes we drive the wrong metrics and get the wrong outcomes, right?
And metrics, more often than not, I would say pretty much always, is just about a number, right? If it's a Scrum team, then what's your velocity?
Yeah.
If it's a Kanban team, then what's your throughput? So it just comes down to a number, which again is an abstraction when it comes down to a team member level. They're like, how do I affect this throughput? Should I start doing things fast? Should I start moving things more? It comes down to that. But I think outcome is more than that. Metrics is more than that.
Yeah. So we are taking us back to that phone that we shared. Remember?
Yeah.
Expert Achiever Catalyst.
Mm-hmm.
You are focused only on velocity. Probably you are just a result-oriented leader or a number-driven guy. Without understanding its impact on the customer or the environment, you are driving some behavior. I'm not saying velocity is not the right behavior to drive, but do people really understand, to your point? What is that velocity going to do for the business or for the team or for the customer? If you don't understand that, it just becomes a number. But like you said, if that 5 cents, in your example, is going to make an impact just because I put the numbers on an Excel sheet accurately, and that's a huge impact that I'm bringing to business. And if everybody starts feeling I'm contributing to the bigger, result of the organization, they will be more motivated intrinsically to do what they do. But today, I think metrics are just numbers, and each of these, whether it is structure, whether it is policy or metric, is driving certain behavior, and which is culture of the organization.
Yep.
So a good question to ask yourself as a leader is, which of these metrics is enabling you, and which of these metrics or structures or policy are actually taking you back from achieving agility? And
I want to add one thing to this point, of metrics. Oftentimes I've heard some leadership saying that, hey, this velocity has, it's not fitting in with the pattern that's been for last month or last sprint or something. So why did that happen? So usually it is taken in a very negative way that, hey, we failed somewhere.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that not every user story or every feature that comes in might be of the exact same complexity as the previous one.
Yeah.
That maybe we're working on some functionality which is pretty unique, and we don't have any parallel to that. We literally need to figure out. We need more time to do it. And if you need more time to do something, might as well put in that time, right? At that point of time, holding the team accountable, saying, no, your velocity is getting affected, you're not doing something right, just puts undue pressure on the team, right? It could be a team member is genuinely trying to solve this problem, but now there's pressure on him or her, and they are like, okay, forget it. Let's just quickly get this done. And eventually what happens? The UAT fails. UVT fails. Now you have a whole bunch of tech debt to deal with. And then you have some weird conversations with your stakeholder. So, these are practical things that happen,
Customers are unhappy, product is not having good quality. Why? Just because of one metric that you were driving. Instead, if that metric was shifted to customer satisfaction or happy customers, probably you would have achieved more, because velocity is just an output towards the actual outcome, right?
Right.
Focus should be on the impact or the outcome to the customer or business value, rather than focusing on what are we driving. Those numbers like velocity and, let's say, in operations teams you have utilization, productivity, all of those are good. those are just indicators of something is going well or something needs to change, right? If your velocity is increasing and decreasing erratically, which means that there is no clarity on the backlog, maybe people are having to spend more time on the learning, maybe it is a competency issue, they're not able to do their work effectively because they don't have the knowledge.
Right.
Maybe it's a bandwidth issue.
Yeah.
There could be many such reasons why the velocity is low, not just that you're not effective as a team.
Correct.
That's one metric.
Yeah. I want to bring in one aspect of empiricism over here.
Yeah.
The way I look at metrics is, like you said, right? It's more a question of what do I need to look into, rather than seeing the team is not doing a good job. Rather, it could be something else, right? It's a symptom of something. Alrighty, guys, that's all we had for today. And I thank you for joining us for yet another episode. We hope you learned something valuable and it ignited your passion for Agile. We truly appreciate your time. And if you enjoyed this episode, please consider the opportunity to join this fledgling community by becoming a subscriber and helping to spread the knowledge by liking and sharing this episode among your circles and even your Agile teams. Finally, to make it worth your time with us, I want you to know that your interaction is what keeps Scrum Call relevant and exciting. Leave us a comment or drop an email at scrumcall.feb17@gmail.com. That is scrumcall.f for father, E for egg, B for baby, and the numbers 17. scrumcall.feb17@gmail.com. Share your thoughts, your suggestions, or simply tell us what is it that you would like us to cover in future episodes. Until next time, remember, Agile is common sense in practice.